good evening to wherever you're listening to this video. Once again, this is Gilbert Bello from Randolph, New Jersey. And today I have a special guest. Please give us your name and where you're from and where you're at this moment.
I am Dr. Michelle VENEZIANO. As I was just telling you, my family is Italian and I'm from New York, but now I live north of San Francisco.
Oh, awesome. Awesome. Okay. So Dr. Michelle, please give us a little bit about your background and what were you doing before what you're doing now?
Well, I went to medical school with an idea that I would focus on something holistic, and I didn't know what that was at the time. I just really followed maybe my intuition that this path was what I needed to do. And I was already applying to MD schools, and then in the middle of applying, I switched over to osteopathic schools. I don't know if you know what osteopath is, but a small percentage, maybe 10% of the medical schools in the United States do an osteopathic medical degree.
And what is that?
It's basically, the root of it is a physician from frontier times who discovered that if the body is mechanically working well and there aren't any obstacles to circulation, that we can heal ourselves. So alongside regular medical education, I learned a lot about identifying structural issues. And it's not like chiropractic. It's very different. It looks at every tissue type in the body. Blood vessels, organs, the lymphatic system, the brain. So you might have heard of craniosacral therapy. That's a little bit more mainstream, I would say.
Okay.
Which grew out of osteopathic medicine.
Okay, yeah, I have no medical background whatsoever, but I do talk to a lot of people. And just to give you an example, I have a teacher, since I'm in New Jersey, I have a medical teacher. She teaches one of the medical schools in New York. And one day, just out of curiosity, I said, let me ask you a question. Is the whole medical industry set up to cure the problem or the symptom? And it was funny. She looked around, make sure nobody was looking. She goes, the symptom, because if we cure the problem, the money goes away. And I'm like, okay. Now, can you answer me a second question? She goes, yeah, sure. I said, do you teach that to your student? She looked around. She went, I can't do that.
Oh my goodness. Well,
well, this is what my stuff is about the matrix and how the game is rigged, but most people have no idea how deep the game is rigged.
That's right. And it comes from our own consciousness. Like there are days when I am not as awake or sensing the environment or connected with nature. And on those days, I think, more things about, the industry of medicine make sense. It's our own lack of awareness and consciousness that are driving that whole thing, right? Because it doesn't require you to be awake or feel anything or really be in touch with your deeper instincts. You just go on autopilot and you let someone give you a pill, and then I don't have such a negative opinion about it because I really trust that people wake up in their own time. And if a person is committed to maybe something I think is kind of toxic, maybe I give them some options, but I don't have a judgment about the choice they make because they will find their way if they're meant to. Everyone has their own path.
Okay. But when you watch the statistics, you realize that 95% of people really don't make a choice because they're half asleep. They got their eyes open, but they're half asleep.
Exactly. I think maybe sometimes people need to have their own wake-up call, Like sometimes I used to do this because in medicine, we're trained to just fix problems and heal people and make them feel better. And I was getting really burnt out. And I realized that sometimes it's the pain or the problem that's giving the person the message that they need to hear in order to wake up. So I started only taking people in my practice who really wanted to know what the deeper thing was, who were ready to investigate that.
Okay. Now, once you make the switch, is this what you have been doing as a career?
Yes. So when I graduated from medical school in the year 2000, I worked for maybe 10 years in a regular medical clinic and a hospital, and I'm
Okay.
still on a hospital staff. But I started building right away my kind of more spiritually oriented hands-on healing practice, which is also quite medical. We have medical codes. It counts as medicine in this profession. And I practice it in a particularly committed way. Over time, I stopped doing regular medicine. I mean, I still write prescriptions maybe once or twice a month. And I don't really order tests because it's a lot of paperwork. So I let my partners in my medical office do that part. So I found myself a little niche where I'm not a person's primary care doctor anymore. I'll kind of help them with, actually feeling more and getting more in touch with their body so they can find what they need. And a lot of times a person has back pain, but really they're not breathing because they're stressed out because they hate their job. Right? So it's like we get into kind of a meditative state and we feel what comes up, and then the person usually has an insight to what's really going on. And that's when it gets really exciting.
Okay. Okay. And what are what are the common themes or common traits, common problems that you have found in your practice so far?
Well, it's funny because people say, what is osteopathic medicine good for? But anytime we are out of balance, we cannot self-correct and heal ourselves. So that can show up as migraines or sleep disruption or body pain or fatigue. These are really common, complaints of most everyone has at some time or another. And once we get the person back to feeling their body and breathing, and really
Right.
the big thing that I focus on is shifting the nervous system out of fight or flight and into heal and feel. They're actually opposite settings. And I have really clear ways of explaining the science and the anatomy on that. And people
Okay.
understand instinctually what is their life experience like when they're in like survival mode versus they're in flow and restoration. So I'm really about finding the way back to flow. For some people, it's because they had a head injury and they can't, they don't have circulation in their neck or their head, and sometimes I have to help them with that. Or sometimes I work a lot with orthodontic issues because those also can really indicate that the skull's been really compressed, and then
Okay.
braces can make that worse. So when I said craniosacral, it's like this is the head and this is the tailbone, and there's a sort of a cycle in the body where there's a expanding and contracting subtle cycle that is kind of an expression of the life force pumping through the body. And if
Okay.
a person can't do that, they're going to have a lot of symptoms.
Okay. Now, when you use, I mean, I understand what you mean when you say life force, but what about people who are not quote unquote or don't have never read or are not familiar with that type of terminology?
Yeah, I know. I have my mother's a perfect devil's advocate because she's really old school. So
Okay.
I always trying on like language that can language that will make sense for her. Well, we could just say vitality, right?
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
yeah, like what's the difference between a vibrant person who's maybe excited about something or in love, or and then a person who's kind of deflated.
Okay.
So however people understand that, there are ways to bring yourself from deflation to expansion. And a lot of it is mindset. A lot of it is mindset. A lot of it is common ways of moving. Like, how are you breathing? How are you sitting? How are you walking? Because you can actually support that pulsing activity. You can keep the body basically expanding and contracting, moving all the time, as though you're actually a fluid substance where every cell in the body is participating. And that's very martial arts. That's what they do. The
Okay.
martial artists, they move from the ground all the way through their body so that every cell is doing a little bit of the work. and then they have an immense amount of power, but they're not looking like they're working hard because it's coming through them naturally, almost like an extension from the ground. Does that make sense?
Okay, no, I understand the concept. I understand but to me, that sounds, or I guess because I've read a lot about stuff like that, it sounds more like Reiki, meditation,
Right. So it's so funny because I was
energy healing.
yeah, of course it's, well, all right. It's really hilarious. So I was reading a paper. I'm reading a lot of the science on these things now to attempt to have better explanations for people. And besides,
Okay,
because it's fun, right?
okay,
So I've been reading a lot about physics and kind of the principles of nature at work on the micro scale of the atom and then extrapolated to the macro scale of the universe. The body works with these principles. These are the very basic principles of nature that govern fluid dynamics, harmonics, and how form follows function in terms of the physical world being an expression or an extension of the movement that's happening, like the way the river carves the Grand Canyon.
okay.
Modern medicine does not pay attention to these things. So I understand that the concepts are foreign, but this is essentially, we are nature at work in a body. I had this guy walk into my office, and I'm pretty much entertaining myself by talking about philosophy, and usually I tune into the patient and I want it to be a conversation that really resonates for him. But I think
Okay.
I was having a sort of a snarky day maybe. So he said, I don't know about this energy stuff. And I was like, looked at an atom lately, how's that working for you? Because
The results
I was
speak for themselves.
I was teasing him and playing with him,
Right.
and play is actually a really brilliant way to get the nervous system to shift
Okay.
because we feel safe when we're engaged in a playful way in a safe environment. And I have lots of little tricks. So yes, what I do is very much based in mindfulness. I teach
Okay.
people how to heal themselves. I teach them how to kind of get out of stuck mindsets. We talk while they're on the table and I'm working on their body. And I help them feel what's happening because their attention can tune in to the healing that's happening, and that changes the physiology. So physics, like the studies around neuroplasticity now, show that where our attention goes, I love this
Energy
quote from
flows.
where attention goes, neural firing flows and neural repatterning grows, or
Correct.
neural pathways grow. That's a really great quote from Dan Siegel. He's an MD down at UCLA. And so now, whereas these concepts, like when I was applying to medical school, however long ago, nobody, you had to kind of whisper and like go around the corner and talk because I would be interviewing at schools and asking, where's the acupuncture club? I want to talk to the people who actually want to know about healing, right?
Right.
And it's nowadays, the language is becoming much more commonplace and mainstream, although I think maybe my perspective is kind of biased because I choose to be around people having those conversations. It's
Right.
really fun for me.
Right. Well, thought attracts like, and we find ourselves with people in similar fields. Now, let me ask you a question. I seen your story in the Facebook with the new KBB, right?
Uh-huh.
Okay. How did you end up with purchasing that product, and why did you purchase it,
Oh,
or what is your
yeah, that's a
goal?
great question. I firstly went on instinct because I'm not such a big marketing oriented person. I love Tony Robbins, and his whole energy is really intense for me. So I
Okay.
have been like, I'm not one of these flow kind of bulletproof oriented intensity guru.
Alpha male.
I'm not one exactly. However, I do need to probably diversify a little bit culturally if I'm going to get my message out there, right? Like I really want to bring what I know to people because there's so much, and we need this. There's so much going on with people. There aren't enough healers to respond anyway, but it's so much more fun to do. There's 80-90% of what we need to heal we can do ourselves, and it's not just an obligation, it's an opportunity to really have a beautiful experience being in a body, like much more enjoyment and fun and just feeling good, right? Because most the numbers of people on antidepressants and other medications and maybe just basically not feeling fully fulfilled in their lives, right? Like if the world's going to wake up, we kind of each individually have our part in waking up ourselves.
That is correct. That is correct. And it's funny. I did a video before for a lot of the Spanish audience that I have about how the virus is forcing governments, because a lot of governments are shutting their borders. I was listening to a video from the president of Colombia. He's today at 3:00. He stopped all tourist ships from docking in Cartagena, and it's forcing a lot of governments to control their borders, number one, and to push companies to push their employees to start working from home. So it's, I didn't realize that the virus was going to have that kind of effect of pushing people to awaken to the fact that nowadays you can work from home.
Yeah, actually we had our intro to the KBB course this morning. I assume you're in it also.
That is correct.
That was one of the conversations, and I think it's very surreal. We don't even know kind of the extent of what's going on right now, but I think it's going to build some infrastructure in the way we live that hopefully can be supportive to the community, being more cohesive and connecting more, not just online, but in person when this whole thing passes. But whenever there's a crisis, we have to come together in creative and strategic ways.
That is correct. But again, my point is that I didn't realize that it was going to have this kind of effect where all the governments worldwide are now pushing people to stay home, work from home, work digitally, meet, via these digital rooms. All of a sudden, it's like the shift is happening in mass.
I know.
It's being done for the wrong reason, but it's happening. Yeah. My whole thing is, at what point are people going to, at what point are individuals going to go, wait a minute, now I can work from home, but I'm still working at a job. How can I do it now for myself? Like you and I have realized that now we could do stuff for ourselves.
We'll see, right? We'll see. It's exciting for me because I'm a little bit, I don't know, maybe I don't seem shy, but it's a big thing to bring your work out and be exposed to a big number of people. Like maybe you already do this, but before you did it, weren't you a little nervous? So I took this plunge, and now I'm really glad I did it a week ago, I guess. And now I'm thinking, maybe this is really what the world needs, is more resources online. And then it creates meeting people the way I just met you, right? And maybe if I traveled somewhere where you were, we'd know each other and we'd connect in person, which has also happened to me. Like I have a whole community of people in different areas, my meditation teaching and, where I go to learn and that sort of thing. So I have friends all over the world. I can travel anywhere and have a host or just enjoy spending time with someone who's like-minded.
Okay. Well, I mentioned to somebody this morning that I've done like a 20-year loop. And what I mean by that is I used to help, or I used to volunteer for the Anthony Robbins seminar here in Madison Square Garden and in New Jersey, where he does the Firewalk experience. This is going back 15, 20 years ago.
Wow.
I used to sell his courses and his books. And I don't know if you're familiar with Nightingale Conant.
No.
Okay, Nightingale Conant is a company that puts a lot of this information and a lot of motivational speakers, a lot of personal growth people purchase the cassette programs on different topics, self-esteem, increasing your confidence, the mindset, financial, everything about finances. Everything comes in cassette. They're called Nightingale Conant. I used to sell those tapes back in the late 80s.
That's
And
amazing. I meant to tell you when I first started to kind of branch out into holistic interests on behalf of myself before I even applied to medical school, my first mentor told me to check out Tony Robbins. That was 1993. So not quite as far back as you, but I've been tracking him a little bit. And I think his story is wonderful. And I think his services to the world is phenomenal.
That is correct. That is correct. And another angle to that is that through many years of following different people of that caliber, I say I've come up with different sayings, and one of them is everything is a copy of a copy, but the masses don't know it. And how you and I can use that is getting our message or that particular expertise that you have, those particular skills that you have and that you have learned and you have mastered over the 20 years or however long you've been doing it. That stuff came from somewhere.
Yes. And it came from a coalescing of all the influences on my life as well as my life experience. So, and in the moment when I'm explaining something to you, what I'm sharing is in some way chosen, maybe subconsciously by what's relevant to this connection that we have right now.
And,
right?
and that's
it's
my point.
In the moment, a live process.
That is correct.
No cookie cutter.
That is correct. And that's where our uniqueness comes from. But we have forgot totally about it, and we put it aside. Our school system practically has taught us to try to fit in, not to be different.
Yes, that's true. I try to teach my daughter the opposite.
I have an 18-year-old. Be yourself, mommy. I don't care. Be yourself. Be yourself. Be yourself.
I find that in my experience over all my years, people are most happy when they are themselves. Yeah. And maybe they have to kind of work on some personal approval or getting out of judgment or, maybe some memories that leave them with whatever traumatic experience. People have their triggers, but we look at those things and stay present and feel through them and breathe. It's all energy stuck in the body that just wants to get clear. It's actually not that complicated.
No, but I'm with you on that, and I feel what you're saying. It's not. But how did we get to the point where most people are unconscious? Like we mentioned, 95% of people they have their eyes open, but they're asleep at the wheel. If things are not that complicated, how is it that society in mass has reached this point?
Let's say, I'm putting the shade down here. Let's say that, I'll say from my point of view, I actually think people are waking up. And I think that as we all collectively wake up a little bit, and I'm sure you have quite a bit from just interacting with so many brilliant people who are so lit up about whatever they're doing, that we actually feel more. So we sense more of what isn't yet woken up by contrast to what is woken up in us. Like we actually notice more of what's not working when we wake up. Like right before things shift, they actually kind of expand and reach a peak. That's the way nature works. Everything happens in cycles. So we go up to a peak and then we kind of hit some kind of critical mass and then there's a shift. So there's change happening and improvement happening. That's my perception. But in the moment when you're riding the waves, in the process of change and the transition, things can seem very much out of control and hopeless and impossible. And that's a little bit like what the world feels like right now. If you stay just in the little kind of moment that you're in without expanding your awareness to kind of sense the bigger picture, which is what I think mindfulness practice does. It has us feeling like when I really get into my practice in the morning, as the moments go by, I notice I can hear the birds further and further away, and I start having a perception of a much bigger space. And then all of a sudden I'm not so myopic. Like when we're in survival mode and panic, we literally have tunnel vision. So I'm talking about when the nervous system shifts and we open our senses, we sense a bigger picture, a larger purpose to things, even if they seem terrible. Maybe something's falling apart so something new can grow. And so I teach about shifting states, and then we can experience what's there. We can discover it like an adventure. It's never the same twice. It's a very alive process in the moment.
My sister-in-law, every time she sees me, she goes, "No, you don't step in the same river twice."
What does that mean? What does she mean by that?
Because if you put your foot in the river and you take it out, when you put it back in, that
exactly.
It's no longer that same river. Never.
Nothing is ever the same place. It may appear so on the surface.
That is correct. But this is where we need to go past, or we need to realize that our senses, usually what we see, what we hear, what we taste, what we feel, is not actually true.
Right. And you know what it takes to know that? Paying attention. And paying attention comes from getting still and feeling and allowing the feeling state to wake up the senses. Remember when I said where attention goes, energy flows? Well, being present, feeling your body, feeling the earth, feeling your connection to the earth. And then all of a sudden your senses start to pick up a much bigger picture of reality.
Okay.
It's like a muscle, though. You have to build it. You're not just going to sit down on a cushion and go, wow, I see God. You actually practice, and sometimes feeling can be very confronting, especially if we haven't done it for a while, or ever. The first time I sat on a cushion and I thought, this is going to be so wonderful. Meditation's so lovely and safe. Oh my God. I had a little panic attack. It surprised me. It was fascinating. I thought, but that doesn't make any sense to the story in my head about what's supposed to be happening.
Okay.
But then I started just getting present with what was happening. And I had to kind of like stick with it and kind of feel deeper into, what I felt kind of were stuckness in myself. And the neuroscience shows that if you put your attention on a sensation in your body, which may be cell memory from a trauma or simply just an emotion, it takes 60 to 90 seconds to start to shift it open. It's really not much, but most people, they get a little bit close to that and then they stop breathing because they have some sense of doom or overwhelm that is triggered. It's stimulated in the mind. That's why it's getting out of the mind into the body, where we actually discover we have much more resource than our minds say we do.
Right. I mean, most of us, according to the psychologists, we use less than 2% of our true capacity.
Yeah. And so I think when we start to feel the body and wake up all the neural pathways down to the ground, we start to increase that percentage drastically. It's like the body there's a lot more neural information, by the way, going from the body to the brain than the other way around. So it's like the body, with all its ways of picking up information through sound and visual, but also through vibration, resonance. Everything works on resonance. The physics is clear on that. Once 90% of how we interact with the world is through all of the rest of that, not through here. So the brain's getting signals from the body. And if the body's awake and it has good navigation to be drawn toward what is in alignment or resonant, like you're going to spend your time with this friend because you actually notice how you feel when you're with this person, versus I'm going to go spend my time with this friend because he asked me to and it's a good idea in my head, right? It's like, let the body guide you. It's just a lot more intelligent than the brain. That's the point.
Okay. Well, if by the body you mean your intuition, because I'm very much into my intuition.
Mm-hmm.
Any major decision, I kind of like dwell all over, all the ingredients that go into the decision, and then I just let it like sit, simmer, and all of a sudden, a day and a half, 2 days will go by, and I'll get that signal whether to
Exactly.
do it or not to do it. And once that signal comes in, that's it.
That's right. That's what people say, my gut feeling. They also say reliably, if I go against my gut, bad things happen. And we all have that experience. But we're not talking about anything so magical or certainly not anything new, like our instincts and our intuition. That's how we used to find food or know what the weather was going to do or where the predator was. Like these are senses we used to use to survive. And we don't do that anymore. So they're a little bit elusive. But my point is, everyone has them. We just need to practice them if we want them to be strong.
Okay. Okay. So where do you see yourself 6 months from now, a year from now, by being inside the KBB?
Oh my gosh, it's so funny because I just started today, right? So I got that little bit from Dean's talk about mindset.
Okay.
And I know how powerful it is to set your sights on a really specific movie, like a movie of your future. And honestly, I want to be doing talks like this with large amounts of people and discussing. I think my superpower is making really complicated things simple and
Okay.
talking about one specialty I have. Yeah, so I won't get into details. I want to do sort of Q&A style, really playful, fun, large group pod classes from home, or maybe I'll build something outside and I'm on a really beautiful hillside with a forest, some kind of beautiful setting where I can spend a lot of my time and not have to commute
Okay. Okay.
and make enough money to be able to travel and teach too, because right now I still have to see patients all 3 days a week is what I do, and I love it. And I feel like I'm ready to see the world more. Like I really have been trying to learn Spanish for a long time, and I really
Okay.
would love to relearn my Italian. I used to speak a little bit, but I've always seen myself traveling and learning languages
Okay.
in many different countries.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. That's awesome. Uh, uh, the reason I contact you was again because of what you're doing. And I just came back from Colombia and I met another doctor who, because she's from Venezuela and because of the situation over there, she moved out to Ecuador. But now because she can't get licensed, or she's in the process of getting the licenses for the country of Ecuador, she started to do like consulting via the internet. And now
Mm-hmm.
she travels from city to city in Ecuador, just giving her medical advice, not practicing medicine, just
Mm-hmm.
giving that advice about the. And she has a whole list of diseases that she deals with. But my whole thing with her, I asked her the same thing. How do you deal with, with the laws in each country being different, each state being different, especially in the medical field, where there's a resistance to people like yourself, kind of guiding the masses towards natural healing modalities.
I don't know yet, but I know people are doing it. So I probably will do two things. I'll do a general coaching that's just advice, because a lot of what I know is it's you got to go into the laboratory of yourself and your life and try things. And then there will be people who need specific advice to their specific issues, and I love doing that too. So I'll have to figure it out. I'll probably do some private consulting.
Okay,
Mhm.
okay, that's awesome. That's
Mhm.
awesome. Uh, any other words of advice and wisdom?
Any other words of advice and wisdom? Do what you love, you know? If your heart says, I want to do this, and my mind says something else, put some attention on that thing and figure out how you could at least do both. Like I often change up my schedule. I think I don't have time. It's not practical. I'm not going to stop at that cafe. But if my heart is going, I really want to go to the cafe. I know something magical is sometimes there's wonderful music, or I run into someone, and it's just like, let your body, let your spirits kind of move you toward the things that are going to light up your life.
Okay. Sounds like back in the '60s with the
Oh,
hippie movement.
well, guess what? I found this paper in Scientific American all about
Okay.
vibrations, and the article title said the hippies were right. It's all about vibrations, man.
It's all about love. It's all about
It
love.
actually it
Please.
actually is. There's probably math on that. I'll try to get that for you by the next time we talk. Yeah, I do believe that. And I know
Yeah,
lots of
no,
doctors who do too.
that is correct. And I sense that. I sense that too. In fact, yesterday I talked to different people from different walks of life. And yesterday I had two teachers. They're first grade teachers, and I just needed to ask them a question. I said, "Let me ask you a question. I have a 6-year-old daughter that I spend a lot of time with, especially on Saturdays when we do the chores, and we go to the laundromat to pick up the clothes. And let's say it's 12:35, and I give her a $20 bill, and then I say, wait, I have the 35 cents. The person can't calculate how much she should give me back. So them being teachers, I asked them, are you teaching them to memorize and regurgitate, or you teach them to think critically? And they actually gave me the true answer, meaning that most teachers nowadays, or have been for a long time, most of them are teaching to the test.
Yeah, that's true. It's sad. It's hard. It's hard when you know that it's killing the spirit of the kids
And
learning,
and and this
right?
is back to finding out how did we get where the stuff that's common sense and being awake and being in tune with your body, your intuition, and all that other stuff, and going with the flow. How did we lose it? And it's, to me, that has a large part in it.
Absolutely. I think our culture has directed our attention here. So we've lost this, right, wisdom, connection to nature where things are really pretty obvious to us. But I also think we already know how to do this, so it's not like we have to relearn from scratch. When people are ready, they just go back. It's like riding a bicycle. It's the most natural, innate skill, is to feel the environment and be, responsive and connected to nature and people.
So it's not about learning something new, a new
No.
model, but it's about more of an awakening to it.
Yeah, we've been practicing overstimulating senses from here, overthinking. But our
Okay.
nature is not to think so much, but to feel more, right? That's how we survive in the world. So when anything is an imperative to survival, evolutionarily speaking, it's going to be something that's really embedded in our DNA. Like, on my opinion, feeling and tapping into our intuition is actually how we survive. And because we're not doing that, we're not surviving that well. We're not thriving. It's required. So in order to actually shift to a culture that's thriving, we have to feel more. And Dean was talking about it today. He was talking about mindset and connecting with your enthusiasm and being present and sharing your light with people or your excitement, right? That's all experiential. That's not some story. That's why he was saying, like, if you open your podcast and you give people a list of tasks or things to learn, they're going to miss that whole part of experiencing something exciting on the level of their cells. So basically, if you can tap into that, that's 90% of it. It almost doesn't matter what you say. It matters. What matters is, how do people feel when they're with you, and do you open up their curiosity and their excitement so that they can then rest in that state? It's really about being in a state of receptivity and optimism that allows you to discover and feel into the thing that your heart really wants to share with the world. And I'm telling you, it's not rocket science. It's the most natural thing. We just lost track of it. And Tony Robbins happens to be someone who is able to relay this concept in the way that he does. And he's wanting everyone else to follow in his tracks, because it's really about a critical mass shifting of the world.
That is correct. That is correct. That is correct. I'm totally in agreement with you. Question: do you have a website already?
I do. So for one thing, all my teaching, almost everything I've written, and I have a lot of videos on my Michelle Veneziano DO, Dr. Michelle Veneziano Facebook page, and also michellevenezianodo.net. But if you just put in Michelle Veneziano Osteopath, you'll find my website, and then links to my Facebook are on there, and LinkedIn and all of that.
Okay.
So, and I love it if people ask questions. Like I do a lot of waking up the brain through tongue and airway, undoing birth trauma, and helping people breathe in a way that lets their nervous system drop, so then we can get to other problems. It's very technical, it's very specific. It gets people breathing through their nose, which is critical for opening up the connection between the heart and then literally the midbrain, which helps open intuition.
Okay.
So go check that stuff out, and then feel free to ask me questions because I love answering them.
I know. And do you have a closed group?
I don't know. I was just looking on I don't know what all these things are. Someone built my website. Oh wait. So in Facebook that says community, is that where people would like hang out?
Okay, well, this is where we get into the marketing aspect of it, because you have your own personal profile, then you have a fan page where you can.
I don't know. I have a doctor Facebook page.
Okay, well, that's probably your fan page.
People follow me, yeah.
Okay, but then those people who are in your fan page, some of them may want more detailed information. So therefore, from the marketing aspect, you create a closed group so you could see those people that are more interested, sort of to separate the two.
Oh.
Those that are more interested can join my closed group.
Oh, so let me ask you this, Gilberto. Will you go to my pro website, Facebook page, see if I have that, write me a message wherever you can, and then show me what I'm supposed to do. You can be my first closed group person.
Sure, why not? So
I already have one. I don't know. I'm going to need help with this stuff.
Right, and then you ask those people when you make your comments or your face. Do you do Facebook Lives?
I have never done one.
Okay.
I should do it. Oh no! Yeah.
You'd be amazed at the amount of people that will start to ask you questions, and you have an ongoing conversation.
I need to do it, right?
And again, this is where the marketing comes in, because now you need to sort out those that are mildly interested and those that are willing to go to the next step and pay for your services. But you need some kind of way to separate them. So this is where you say, for those people that they want something more in depth, they want more detailed information, I've created a closed group at ... whatever that may be. Say just another label. And then you'll see those few or many, depending on how many you have, migrate. That tells you these people are interested in more in depth. And that's where you could go into, consultation and all that kind of stuff.
Oh my gosh, a bunch of people on the KBB Facebook page are like, I'm in, whatever it is. I have at least 10. And I think that's great, because just like you said, I really like to work with people who gravitate toward me. I do not like to get into convincing. There's no point.
Right? This is not about convincing.
No, I know. What you're saying is just to go with the people who have affinity for my message.
That is correct. But you know what? Okay, hold on one second. I'm going to pause the recording. Okay. Please, Michelle, give those that are going to watch this video your website once again, your Facebook or your Instagram account. If they want to contact you, they're more than welcome to. Please.
Yeah, you're making me realize I need something easier to say, because my name is tricky, right? So Veneziano means from Venice. Venice is Venezia in Italian. Then you add an N-O. So Michelle Veneziano, osteopath, D-O. But my website is Michelle Veneziano, D-O, Doctor of Osteopathy.net. Supposed to change it to .com. And then if you look on Facebook, that's the best place, because I'm really active on my doctor Facebook page, and I just posted a couple, I think, really good videos this week. My first videos, really. which is Michelle Veneziano DO on Facebook. I think you could find it if you just do Dr. Michelle Veneziano. I'm not sure yet. I'm figuring all this stuff out, but I'm not too hard to find.
Okay. I'm just going to say something in Spanish. Aquí tengo una entrevista con una doctora que está enseñando medicina natural. Entonces, para esas personas que quieran visitarla a ella, por favor, contáctenme a mí. Y a mí me pueden encontrar en revoluciondigital.net o Gilberto Bello o Revolución Digital 2020 en Facebook. For the English-speaking market, you can find me at Gilberto Bello on Facebook. I have several groups. Most of them are in Spanish because I deal with the Hispanic market. But if you need any kind of information, please, you're welcome to contact me via Gilberto Bello on Facebook.
Thank you, Gilberto. It's wonderful to meet you.
Dr. Michelle, same here. Take care, and I'll see you.